Chosen one, listen carefully. What you're experiencing right now is not random. Heaven is watching your comeback, and God is smiling. The enemy thought you were finished. The pressure, the delays, the silence were supposed to break you, but instead, you survived, and that survival shocked the darkness. This moment is proof that what tried to destroy you actually prepared you. God is saying, I saw every tear, every setback, every night you thought of giving up, and still you stood. That's why this comeback is different. It's quiet, but powerful. It's slow, but unstoppable. You didn't return for applause, you returned for purpose. Something has shifted in your favor, and forces that worked against you can feel it. Stay with this message, because what you're about to hear is not motivation, it's confirmation. Your rise wasn't luck, it was ordained. Before you get lost in this video, you must first do 3 things to connect with God's energy. First, you must like the video, and then leave a comment. Thank you, God, for choosing me. And finally, you must send your signal to the universe by subscribing to the channel. Your survival was the first shock. Chosen one. The first and biggest reason heaven is smiling today is because you survived something that was meant to erase you completely. There were seasons when life didn't just test you, it pressed you from every side. Things didn't fall apart loudly, they fell apart quietly. The silence was heavy. The waiting was exhausting. People stopped checking on you, and some even assumed your story had already ended. You felt invisible, misunderstood, and tired in ways you couldn't explain. Yet somehow, even on days when you had no strength left, you still woke up. You still showed up. You still moved forward, even if it was only one small step at a time. God says, this is not ordinary survival. This was intentional protection. You weren't saved because you were lucky, and you didn't make it through because you were stronger than everyone else. You made it through because there was a hand over your life when you couldn't protect yourself anymore. When you didn't know how to pray, God still heard your heart. When you felt weak, He carried you quietly. Your survival became a message written without words, a message that says, this one cannot be destroyed. What makes this even more powerful is that you didn't survive untouched. You survived transformed. The pain gave you depth. The delays taught you patience. The losses showed you what truly matters. You didn't come out the same person you were before. And that's the point. What was meant to harden you instead made you more aware, more discerning, and more grounded. You learned to listen to your inner voice. You learned to choose peace over chaos. You learned that not every battle needs your reaction. The enemy expected you to collapse under the weight of everything you carried. He expected exhaustion to make you quit, but God had already written your return before the struggle even began. That's why your comeback feels different. It's not rushed. It's not loud. It's steady. It has substance. Your presence carries weight now because you've lived through what others only talk about. You didn't escape the fire quickly. You walked through it slowly, feeling every moment, learning every lesson. And because of that, you came out wiser, not reckless, stronger, not arrogant. Your survival shocked the darkness because it proved that what tried to destroy you actually refined you. This is why heaven is smiling. Your survival was the first sign that your story was never meant to end in that chapter. It was only preparing you for what comes next. You didn't lose yourself, and that made God smile. Chosen one of the rarest things in this world is not strength. It's purity of heart after pain. Many people go through hardship and slowly change into someone they don't recognize. Pain often makes people cold, suspicious, or harsh. Faith fades. Compassion hardens. But you didn't let that happen to you. Even when life disappointed you, you didn't allow it to steal who you truly are. God says, this is the part of your journey that made him smile the most. You were hurt, yet you didn't become cruel. You were misunderstood, yet you didn't become arrogant. You were betrayed, yet you didn't become bitter. You felt anger, confusion, and sadness, because you're human. But you didn't live in those emotions. You chose to process them instead of letting them control you. That choice protected your spirit. In a season that tried to harden your heart, you kept it soft without becoming weak. That balance is rare. There were moments when revenge would have felt justified, moments when walking away would have been easier than staying true to yourself, moments when closing your heart completely seemed like the safest option. But instead, you chose growth. You chose healing even when it took longer. You chose patience when panic wanted to take over. God says, every time you made those quiet decisions, something powerful was happening inside you. You were passing a test that most people fail without even realizing it. The enemy expected pain to change your identity. He expected suffering to distort your values. He thought disappointment would pull you out of alignment. But you stayed rooted. You didn't become who the situation tried to shape you into. You remembered who you were before the storm, and you held on to that truth. That's what makes this chosen energy, not perfection, not pretending everything was fine, but remaining aligned even when it was hard. Your heart passed the test before your circumstances ever shifted. That's why your breakthrough didn't arrive earlier, because God was more focused on who you were becoming than what you were receiving. He knew that once your heart stayed pure under pressure, nothing external would be able to destroy you later. Blessings given to an unhealed heart can become burdens. But you were prepared properly. God smiles because you didn't trade your soul for survival. You didn't let pain rewrite your character. You didn't let betrayal teach you to hate. Instead, you learned discernment. You learned boundaries. You learned self-respect without losing compassion. And now, when your situation begins to change, you'll receive it without losing yourself. That's why this season is safe for you. You stayed aligned, and heaven noticed. The silence was training, not rejection. Chosen one, there were seasons when it felt like nothing was happening at all. You prayed, waited, hoped, and still, the days passed quietly. No clear signs, no sudden changes, no answers that made sense. It felt like your voice wasn't being heard, like heaven had gone silent just when you needed reassurance the most. But God says that silence was never abandonment. It was intentional preparation. While life seemed still on the outside, something powerful was happening within you. You were being trained in ways noise could never accomplish. In the quiet, your faith learned how to stand without constant reassurance. You discovered how to trust without proof. You learned how to keep moving even when emotions weren't cheering you on. That kind of faith doesn't grow in excitement, it grows in stillness. During that time, others may have been distracted by shortcuts, opinions, or external validation. But you were pulled inward. Your awareness became sharper. You started noticing things you used to ignore. People's intentions, energy shifts, patterns that didn't align with your peace. This wasn't accidental. God was sharpening your discernment so you wouldn't repeat old cycles when new doors opened. Your emotional strength also grew in ways you couldn't measure at the time. You learned how to sit with discomfort without breaking. You learned how to process pain without running from it. You learned how to calm your thoughts when fear tried to take over. These lessons couldn't be taught through success. They had to be learned through quiet endurance. The enemy mistook your silence for defeat. He assumed that because you weren't reacting, complaining, or proving yourself, you had given up. But God was quietly upgrading you, removing the need for constant approval, breaking your attachment to urgency, teaching you patience that doesn't panic when timing feels slow. That's why your comeback feels different now. There's no chaos in your movement, no desperation in your decisions. You don't rush to explain yourself. You don't beg for doors to open. You don't chase validation from people who once ignored you. You move with a calm certainty because you were trained when no one was watching. Silence taught you how to listen to your intuition, to your spirit, to God's subtle direction. It taught you how to wait without losing hope, how to stay grounded without knowing the full plan. And now, when momentum begins to return, you're able to handle it with maturity. God says, the quiet season didn't delay you. It prepared you. You weren't being pushed back. You were being strengthened from the inside out. That's why, when things begin to move, you'll move with clarity instead of confusion. You were trained in the quiet, and that training is what makes your next season stable, lasting, and protected. Your comeback is internal. Before it becomes visible, chosen one. Your comeback may not look dramatic from the outside yet, and that's exactly how it's meant to be. God never rushes outward change before healing the inner world. Before situations shift, He restores the heart, the mind, and the spirit. That's why this season feels quiet but steady. Nothing feels forced. Nothing feels frantic. What's happening now is deeper than what people can see. You once believed that your breakthrough would announce itself through success, money, or recognition. But God says the first sign of victory is peace. Notice how fear no longer controls your thoughts the way it once did. The same problems don't shake you like before. Situations that used to trigger panic now feel manageable. This calm didn't come from circumstances improving. It came from strength growing inside you. Your thoughts have changed. You don't jump to worst-case scenarios anymore. You pause before reacting. You don't feel the constant urge to prove yourself or explain your worth. That's not weakness, it's stability. God says, this inner shift is the clearest proof that the battle already turned in your favor. The fight was never just around you, it was within you. And that fight has been settled. The enemy is shocked because his access to your mind has been removed. He used to disturb your sleep, your focus, your confidence. He used doubt to drain your energy and fear to keep you stuck. But now, your mind feels guarded. Negative thoughts don't stay as long. Worry doesn't control your decisions. You've learned how to redirect your thoughts instead of being ruled by them. This internal freedom changes everything. When the mind is no longer trapped, the future begins to move. You make clearer choices. You attract healthier opportunities. You respond instead of react. You don't chase, you align. God says, this is why your next season will unfold naturally. There's no need to force doors or convince people. What belongs to you will recognize your peace and come toward you. Your confidence is quieter now, but it's stronger. It's not built on validation or applause. It's rooted in knowing that you're no longer fighting the same internal battles. You trust yourself more. You trust God more. You trust the process, even when you don't see every detail yet. This is why your comeback is secure. External success without internal stability collapses. But internal restoration creates a foundation nothing can shake. God is smiling because you're becoming unbreakable from the inside out. The visible rewards will follow, but they will arrive to a mind that is calm, a heart that is steady, and a spirit that is ready to hold them without fear. What tried to delay, you accidentally aligned you. Chosen one, what once felt like delay was never a mistake. It was direction. At the time, every closed door felt confusing. Every rejection felt personal. Every setback made you question whether you were moving the wrong way. But God says, those pauses were not pushing you off course. They were gently steering you into alignment with who you were becoming. Some opportunities didn't open when you wanted them to because you weren't meant to enter them as the person you were back then. Had certain doors opened earlier, they would have cost you your peace, your values, or your confidence. God was protecting you from success that would have come with damage attached. Waiting saved you from learning hard lessons the painful way. The same is true for people who didn't stay. At the time, their absence felt like loss. But God says, some connections would have limited your growth, distracted your focus, or kept you tied to an older version of yourself. Letting them go created space for maturity, clarity, and healthier alignment. You weren't being abandoned, you were being refined. The enemy thought slowing you down would discourage you. He expected frustration to make you quit, but instead, every delay reshaped your priorities. You learned patience without bitterness. You learned how to sit still without losing hope. You learned how to listen before acting. These lessons redirected your path quietly but precisely. Now you're standing in a place that fits your maturity. You think differently. You see more clearly. You're no longer driven by urgency or comparison. You choose carefully. You trust your intuition. You don't chase what looks good. You wait for what feels right. God says, this version of you can handle what's coming without losing balance. Your comeback is arriving at the correct time, not the rushed time. You now have the mindset to manage blessings responsibly, the discernment to recognize real opportunities, and the emotional stability to handle success without fear. That's why this return will last. God didn't just delay you. He prepared you. The setbacks trained your patience. The rejections sharpened your judgment. The slow seasons strengthened your foundation. Now, when movement begins, it won't collapse under pressure. What tried to hold you back actually placed you exactly where you needed to be. You're aligned with your purpose, your values, and your timing. This comeback isn't fragile. It's rooted. And because it was formed through alignment instead of shortcuts, it's built to endure. You're no longer fighting. You're being backed. Chosen one. There was a season when everything felt like a struggle. You had to fight to be understood, fight to be respected, fight to stay stable. Even peace felt like something you had to defend. Nothing came easily. Every step forward required effort, explanation, and endurance. But God says that season is ending. This one is different. You're no longer pushing doors that refuse to open. You're no longer proving your worth to people who can't see it. Instead, something subtle has changed. Support has replaced struggle. Alignment has replaced resistance. You may not hear thunder or see dramatic signs, but you can feel the difference. Things are beginning to move without force. Conversations are shifting in your favor. Words come at the right time. People listen more closely. Situations resolve faster than before. Opportunities appear without you chasing them. God says, This is divine backing at work. When he steps in, effort decreases and effectiveness increases. You'll notice that people are responding to you differently, even if they don't know why. There's a calm authority in your presence now. Not arrogance, grounded confidence. You're not competing. You're not explaining. You're simply showing up as yourself, and that's enough. Favor speaks quietly but clearly. The enemy is shocked because the struggle he relied on is no longer available. He used pressure to drain your energy. He used resistance to wear down your faith. But now, those tactics don't work. You're not exhausted the way you used to be. You're not anxious in the same way. You're not constantly defending your position. Instead of pushing uphill, you're being carried forward. Grace is doing what force never could. Doors are opening at the right pace. Help arrives at the right moment. Even delays feel lighter because you're no longer carrying everything alone. This doesn't mean there won't be effort. It means effort is no longer exhausting. It means you're supported. It means heaven is involved. When God backs you, things align instead of collide. You move with clarity instead of confusion. You feel guided instead of pressured. You're learning to trust the flow instead of fighting it. You're learning that not every battle is yours to handle. Some things resolve on their own because they're no longer meant to test you. This is what happens when God steps in front of you instead of watching from a distance. Your journey is no longer about survival. It's about movement with support, growth with peace, progress without panic. You're being backed now, and that backing is what makes this season lighter, stronger, and unstoppable. Your comeback will be witnessed by those who doubted you. Chosen one, your comeback is not meant to be loud or dramatic, and it's not meant to embarrass anyone. God says this part of your journey is not about revenge or proving a point. It's about revelation. The same people who once underestimated you, overlooked you, or quietly counted you out will notice something has changed. Not because you announce it, but because it's impossible to miss. You won't feel the need to explain your growth. You won't post speeches or defend your journey. There's a quiet confidence in you now that speaks louder than words ever could. When you walk into a room, your presence feels different. When you speak, there's weight behind your voice. When you make decisions, they're calm, steady, and clear. People will sense that something shifted, even if they can't put it into words. What surprises them most is how composed you are. They expected bitterness. They expected distance or anger. Instead, they see maturity. They see balance. They see someone who went through pressure and came back centered, not hardened. That kind of transformation raises questions, not about how much you gained, but about how you changed. God says your life itself will answer those questions. Your consistency will speak. Your peace will speak. Your ability to move forward without dragging the past with you will speak. You won't need to highlight your progress. People will observe it naturally over time. This is the part the enemy dislikes the most. He expected pain to leave visible scars. He expected your journey to end in collapse or bitterness. Instead, your story becomes proof that God restores quietly, without chaos or spectacle. Your rise doesn't create noise, it creates clarity. Some people will reflect. Some will feel inspired. Some may feel uncomfortable. But all will recognize that what happened to you wasn't accidental. You didn't force your way back. You didn't manipulate the outcome. You healed, you grew, and you aligned. And the results followed. God says, this kind of comeback carries authority. Not because it demands attention, but because it doesn't need it. Your steadiness becomes your testimony. Your calm becomes your credibility. and your forward movement becomes evidence that restoration doesn't always shout. It often whispers. You don't rise to be seen. You rise because it's time. And those who once doubted you will witness it, not through announcements, but through the undeniable change in who you've become. This is only the beginning, not the peak. Chosen one, what you're experiencing right now is not the highest point of your story. It's the starting line of something much bigger. This comeback may feel meaningful, but God says it's only the opening scene of your reward season. Everything you went through before was preparation for what's ahead. The pain wasn't wasted. The waiting wasn't empty. It was shaping a foundation strong enough to carry what's coming next. You didn't survive all those hard seasons just to return to an ordinary life. You came back with clarity. Clarity about who you are, what matters, and what no longer deserves your energy. You came back with authority, the kind that doesn't shout but stands firm. You came back with purpose, not borrowed from others, but discovered through experience. This version of you is not confused or easily shaken. And that's why this season can safely unfold. God says heaven is smiling because you're finally ready to receive what you once prayed for without being overwhelmed by it. Before, certain blessings would have stressed you, distracted you, or pulled you off course. Now, you can carry them with balance. You've learned how to stay grounded even when things improve. You've learned how to stay grateful without becoming dependent. That maturity changes everything. What's coming will build naturally on what already exists. Small wins will lead to stable progress. Quiet growth will turn into lasting momentum. You won't feel rushed or pressured to keep up with anyone else's timeline. Your path will feel steady, intentional, and aligned with who you've become. This time, your rise is protected. You're not walking alone. You're not guessing your way forward. You're guided. When challenges appear, they won't knock you down. They'll refine you further. When opportunities come, you'll recognize which ones belong to you and which ones don't. That discernment keeps your growth safe. God says stay aligned, not with expectations, but with your inner truth. Stay grounded, no matter how far you go. Stay open to learning, to guidance, to unexpected doors. You don't need to rush ahead or look back. Everything is unfolding in the right order. This isn't the peak. It's the beginning of a stronger, wiser, more peaceful chapter. Your story is expanding. Your influence is growing. Your future is stabilizing. And because it's built on endurance, clarity, and faith, it's only going to get stronger from here.